my opponents Val's major claim that the way women are portrayed in the media has significant negative effects. Her secondary claims were: first, the media is currently one of our biggest sources of information. Second, media therefore is a powerful tool to communicate messages, and whatever messages it communicates are going to have an impact on society. Third, the media is affecting young girls and women in two significant ways: body image and self-confidence. And lastly, women are being misrepresented. My response to those secondary claims are: first, although society consumes a significant amount of media throughout the day, children and teens are seen to benefit from their media consumption. Second, media communicates positive messages. Third, the use of media helps strengthen the social and emotional lives of women. And lastly, representation of women in the media is growing. Firstly, although Val's data from the Sundance field title Misrepresentation, which is shown in her first secondary claim, illustrates that teenagers spend 10 hours and 45 minutes on a type of media a day, she forgot to recognize that the fact that many homework assignments and group projects need the support of media. Also, teenagers may become more aware by reading newspapers about world events. With the use of media, children are seen to gain developmental benefits. According to RaisingChildren.net, literacy, numeracy, and social skills are developed in young children. Literacy and numeracy skills can be developed through learning letters of the alphabet, through programs such as Play School and Sesame Street, or through educational computer games and learning to count through programs including Sesame Street and Play School. Social skills are developed in young children by learning cooperation by watching TV programs and using computer games and websites such as ABC for Kids that show cooperative and healthy behavior. Furthermore, teenagers also benefit from the media through the development of their social and technical skills. According to Izuku Aito, University of California Irvine researcher, online spaces provide unprecedented opportunities for kids to expand their social worlds and engage in public life, whether that is connecting with their peers over MySpace or Facebook, or publishing videos on YouTube. Also, Aito states that kids learn on the internet in a self-directed way, by looking around for information they are interested in, or connecting with others who can help them. This is a big departure from how they are asked to learn in most schools, where the teacher is the expert and there is a fixed set of content to master. Secondly, Val just assumed and focused on the negative messages portrayed in the media, rather than identifying both negative and positive messages. Both types of messages can have an impact on society, not just the negative messages. Also, Val's statistics, which comes from a study by Dr. Stacy L. Smith, is only based on 13 films in which females are praised for their beauty. This does not show a majority of the media and its messages to the public. Through social marketing campaigns, teenagers become aware of social issues. One example is a program started in Chicago to address childhood obesity. The Consortium to Lower Obesity in Chicago Children developed a public health education initiative that supports a healthier lifestyle. The resulting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, GO campaign uses a variety of electronic media to spread the message that children should have 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, 4 servings of water, 3 servings of low-fat dairy, no more than 2 hours of screen time, and 1 or more hour of physical activity. Also, on September 29, 2010, U.S. Senator Kay Hagan introduced legislation that establishes a national task force that would develop voluntary guidelines and other messages to promote positive images of girls and women. The legislation, called the Healthy Media for Youth Act, would support media literacy programs, promote research on the effects of media images, and encourage the adoption of voluntary guidelines to promote healthier media images for young people. In order to maintain the positive messages about women in the media, the Healthy Media for Youth Act first creates a competitive grant program to encourage and support media literacy programs and youth empowerment groups. The bill also facilitates research on how depictions of women and girls in the media affect youth. Finally, it established a national task force on women and girls in the media, which will develop voluntary standards that promote healthy, balanced, and positive images of girls and women in the media for the benefit of all youth. Thirdly, Val's data, which is not cited, shows that 53% of 13-year-old girls are unhappy with their bodies, and 78% of 17-year-old girls are unhappy, as well as the increase of plastic surgery on 18 or younger girls. However, Valerie shows no proof that this data has a relationship to the media. Most teens actually believe media to have a more positive impact on their emotional lives than a negative impact. According to Social Media Social Life, how teens view their digital lives, more than 1 in 4 teens say that using their social networking site makes them feel less shy and more outgoing. 1 in 5 says it makes them feel more confident, more popular, and more sympathetic to others, and 15% says it makes them feel better about themselves. Also, not only does media have a positive effect on teens' emotional lives, but also on their social lives. In the same study previously stated, teens think that using social media has helped their relationships. Half of all teen social media users say using such media has mainly helped their relationships with friends, compared to just 4% of who say social media has mainly hurt their relationships. Similarly, more than a third say social media use has mainly helped their relationships with family members, compared to 2% who say it's mainly hurt them. In addition, a majority of teens say social media helps them keep in touch with friends who they can't see regularly, get to know other students at their school better, and connect with new people who share common interests. Lastly, Bell's influence between low representation of women in the media and the placement of blame on men for negative images in the media can be seen as a bias. And magazines that many teen girls pay attention to are actually run by female editors, such as Ann Socket for 17 magazine. Also, the statistics given by Bell, which shows women's position in the media, are not cited, so no credibility can be given to the data she uses. Although women and men are still not equal in the media industry, the representation of women is slowly rising. According to a study done in 1972 by the Association for Education and Journalism, the enrollment of women in journalism was at large at undergraduate level and dropped off dramatically at the master's level and consisted of only 10% at the doctorate level. The shortage of qualified women urges universities to employ more female faculty members and accept more female students. Also, government is creating policies that will help further women's status in media. Daisy Ann Nomino, board member of Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, reported that the principle of affirmative action that compelled all statutory institutions to have 30% representation of women was enshrined in the Constitution of Uganda. Diane Sutter, president of CEO Shooting Star TV, stated that most of the women she knew at the most senior levels were doing a lot to help mentor other women. This organization is also about helping women grow in the industry and advocate a belief of women in the industry, as well as to ensure the positive portrayal of women in the media.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it went 2.5 minutes over, so we just had to move on. You ID the main and secondary claims pretty clearly. Your counterclaims, you list them, and I'm not sure that they're going to be directed to the advocate's secondary claims or how they're going to be doing that. You can probably go ahead and make those arguments in the body of the speech. It sounds like you're previewing what the responses are going to be to those points separately from making the arguments, and I don't think that that's necessary. Your first point attempts to diminish the importance of the media claim or the media's influence or cause of these particular problems, and there's a little bit of a challenge to some of the advocates' evidence, and you've got this argument that says that we've got all these other media programs that have a positive impact. That's great, but how does that claim deny the portrayal of women? I think in essence you're saying that the media can have a positive effect. I don't think that the advocate argued that it always has a negative effect or only a negative effect, but rather that it has a negative effect in this particular context. So although your response does have an application, it's an indirect application, and you need some more specific information about the gender issue. There's a little bit of a challenge to some of the evidence that the advocate presented on the films, but it's a passing reference. It's basically a press on those particular points without showing us why that data is not really applicable to what's being talked about on that point. Then you kind of get to the obesity issue. It seemed like it just kind of fell into it quickly, and I thought that there was a signpost missing somewhere there. Again, you've got some information that suggests the media can develop solutions to these particular problems without necessarily addressing whether or not they need to solve the problem because they've created it. And in fact, the last information that talks about this one task force that's being formed to study this, it sounds like it accepts the premise, because they're going to be creating competitive grants on media literacy that's going to study the problem of women's portrayal in the media, which seems to pretty much say, yeah, we know we've got a problem here, now we've got to do something to fix it. So I think it's conceding a little too much ground to the advocate on their particular argument. The third point, I thought you had some reasonable presses on this. Again, we run into some of the same arguments. The social media have these advantages. You might want to point out, for instance, that social media is where most of the kids are nowadays. They aren't watching television. They aren't watching movies. They're all on the social media sites, and so they're not affected the same way that an older generation might have been affected. I think that's kind of the argument that you ought to be making from this. The only other thing that you've got is that these things maybe diminish the negative effect of the portrayal of women in the media, and I think that, again, that's an indirect way of responding to it. All right, thank you.